Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Samantha Mirabal with Melco's application team, and here to answer whatever questions you might have about DesignShop or whatever you want to talk about for the most part. Um, See if we can get you some answers. If not, I can always try to find them for you and get back to you. So if you have questions, please type them in on the comments. We're live on both YouTube and Facebook, so you can type them on either forum. If you see me kind of shifty-eyed to the left or this way, that's where my monitor is that has the feeds up, so that's how I keep track of the questions. So that's what I'm looking for, and it looks like we are live on both platforms. So I'll go ahead and jump in with the questions that were sent in ahead of time, and try to keep an eye and see what else we can get answered for you. All right, so are there any tips for using metallic thread? Yes. So I will try to get you a link posted on, there's a whole document written up in the FAQ section of melco-service.com. So you can look it up there, and it has a bunch of the details. But for the most part, when you're working with metallic threads, slowing your machine down some, increasing your active feed. All right, so good morning. So by increasing your active feed, it makes the thread a little looser. So, I find the metallic thread tends to be a little more brittle. In other words, it breaks a little easier. So pulling it super tight is going to cause it to break more than if it were a little bit looser. So that's where you're increasing your minimum preset for your active feed will help with that. Using a larger needle size is also quite helpful, because, if that thread, when it's kind of rough, right? So when it goes in and out of the fabric, if the thread is rubbing on it, that's going to be additional, fray potential. So by having a larger needle size, the thread is more protected in the groove of the needle. It can go through. It rubs a little less. So there's always that. They do make metallic needles. I don't tend to use those. I just use a larger size. Good morning, Adina and Lorena, Alaska, and towels. Awesome. Have fun with those. So increasing, I think if you look at the actual thread books, and I don't have a metallic one next to me. So the thread books for your thread should have recommended needle sizes on there. I would start with an 80. I believe the recommended for most of them are a 90-14, I believe, from memory serves, but it really does depend on which thread you're using. I know Madeira has a new metallic that I've personally been using, and man, that stuff's great. It sews wonderfully. So I've switched most of my metallics over to that new line just because it runs more like polyester. At least for me it does. Good morning, Gabby. All right, so we'll try to get you that link, and let's see. All right, next question. What's the best way to digitize scrolls like this? Particularly when they end in a ball. So first off, when you're looking at these sorts of designs, you've got to kind of plan out what you want to overlap and how. And what I mean by that is, if I look at, let's just say this guy right here. So I've got this little feathery thing here and then the ball. So what do I want to be on top? Do I want to do this piece all the way around to here? Or do I want to have this smaller one come across on top? All right, so that's part of just planning out how you want to digitize it. All right, so once you have that, remember within DesignShop, we've got all kinds of neat little things to help you and things for you to look at and review. So from a new file, if I take this, I'm going to go into this select automatic, automatic custom shape input. And under custom designs, we have these monograms. The reason I'm showing you this is not necessarily to use these, but to look through this for digitizing examples and best practices, those sorts of things. All right. And if you look through here, there's a lot of scroll work in here. So let's look at this guy right here. So if I just left click and drag that up there. All right. So I've got my scroll ending in a dot. So then we can kind of deconstruct it to see how was this done. So I personally digitize all my scroll work the exact same way as what's done here. So you will take your columns. You can use either a column 1 or a column 2. You can see these are all done with column 2. If you're unfamiliar with your columns, those are how you would create your satin stitches with variable lengths, right? So going from large to small. So you would go, I like column 1. Column 2 is easier to work with. So column 2, you would draw, one side of your shape. You would draw your other side and add stitch directions. Okay. Good morning in New York, in Tucson, everywhere today. All right. So what you'll see here is by splitting the ball away from this, you can take that lower part and make it come into this some. And what does that do? That stops, if this is all combined into one element, you're going to have small stitches going to large stitches, and you get some really weird twist directions. By splitting it up, you have more control over it, and you can make each element look really nice, right? So you can make this one come under here and get a nice overlap. It also makes it look more like scroll work that you would see on wooden scroll because the light plays different on it. So splitting it up into multiple elements, particularly with those balls, is really helpful. Okay. And the more variations and splits like this, the more stitch directions you have, the more light is going to affect it differently and make it look nice. So when you're working with those scrolls using your columns, that allow you go from the thin sections to the thick sections, splitting the balls apart into separate elements, that helps. And then thinking about how do you want these overlaps, what's going to come into what, and so that they play out nicely. Okay. On YouTube, we have someone from Georgia too. Good morning, Jamie. What's the best needle to use for 3D puff for hats? So when you're doing puff, using a sharp needle. Actually, when you're doing hats, using a sharp needle is important. And with puff, I'm lazy. I will say that. I use 7511s until they don't work. So you probably would be better off going to an 80 or a 90 sharp, but I will be quite honest. I use 7511 sharps unless the design doesn't support it, and then I go up in size to like an 80. But sharp needle is the one I would go to. All right, let's see. Does that help with the scroll? Hopefully it does. But yeah, make sure, take a look at those kind of sample designs, because there are a lot of good ideas of how things are done in those. Okay. All right, so we have a question sent in on applications about the cross stitch function, and then some follow-on things. How do you set the spacing between crosses and all that fun stuff? So let's go look at those. All right, so let me close this. New, open. No, I don't want the chain stitch. Aww. Where did I put it? I thought I saved it. I might have to go grab it from my email again. Oh, that's annoying. I closed it without saving it. All right. Let me go grab it from my email. I apologize. I did this beforehand and then apparently didn't save it. All right, so open. So the question was, how do you do this like a cross stitch? So I'm going to copy it, paste it. So this is a JPEG. So when you're going to do your cross stitch, there isn't, one of the questions that was sent in through email was, is there an auto convert? Yes, there is. So you would take the image that you want, make sure it's in JPEG or bitmap format. It needs to be raster based. Okay. Once you have your graphic into DesignShop, whether you get it from a scanner or a camera, you do conversions, go get it from Photoshop, however you're going to get your JPEG, right? There's lots of different techniques there. If you select the art, clicking on it doesn't help. You have to do that over in this right-hand view over here. So if I click on it, right click, right here, there is a cross stitch. You can tell it how many colors, what size you want your X's to be, whether you want it to be, crosses, stars, any of that, how many times you want it to go over it. So let's say we're going to do that. It's going to calculate it all, and now I've got that design in a cross stitch pattern. Okay. Now, some of those follow-up questions was, oops, I'm drawing. Sorry, let me undo that. All right, so if I select the design and now I move it around, how do I stop what's happening now? Notice my box, the design is moving all over the place relative to the box. All right, so that is a bug, and I need to, after this, I'm actually going to go report that. I was talking to the guys. So, but there is a workaround. So we're going to go into properties. If I change the size of this guy, so what that's doing is it's changing the spacing of the grid. So that was also a question. How do I change it to specific space, specific size grid? Well, I can change it here by changing my grid size. Well, if I do that, now look, as I move it around, it stays together. Okay, so that's kind of the workaround for the moment on what you would do. Because notice, once I deselect it after having done that, if I go trying to move it again, it's going to start jumping all over the place again. Okay, so that's kind of your workaround there. All right, so what other cross stitch questions were there? No, not OBS. When to move the design, so I showed that. Space the spacing to specific distance, so that's going to be your box sizes. So you just change that in the properties, whether it's going to be 20, 40, 60. Be careful not to go too big, because then you got really long stitches, which are prone to snagging, all those types of things. Okay. This is a good question. If you have a fill property setting that you really like, can you copy and paste it without dragging that fill across into different designs? Yeah. So, close, no. I did it again. All right. So let's go away. Fill, I'm going to draw a box. All right. We're going to, let's change it to something more interesting for the moment. So I'm going to go just so it looks like something different. I don't like the clown. Let's not do that. Railroad. Yeah, that one's good. Satin up. Okay. Oh, I know what I did. Need to turn this off. All right, let's just do that again since I monkey with stuff in the wrong order. I drew a box. Come over here. I'm just going to make it. Are checks cute? Yeah, checks are cute. All right, so we're going to use checks, and let's pretend we really love that and we want to use it all the time. Okay, so if you want to, when you select the fill, rather than hitting Control-C, going to a new file and pasting it, right here you have your copy properties to clipboard. Once it's copied to clipboard, now you can select a new fill and paste your properties, which is this button. And it's going to paste all the properties you have set for this one into that one. So all you have to do is select whatever it is you like. This works for lettering, it works for fills, for satins, whatever element type you're working on. And you can copy to clipboard and then paste from clipboard. So let's say you've got a bunch of lettering elements and you type in some text, and then you've got a bunch of different ones and you want all the properties just like this perfect one. Great. Select the perfect one, copy to clipboard, select all the others, paste properties, you're good to go. All right. So another question I think was emailed. I don't believe it was here. No, it wasn't this one. So there was a question that was also asked in email, which was, is there a way to save the properties that you like? So let's say for a satin stitch, you want to use a specific pull compensation for this element here. Well, you can come into here, go to your pull compensation, set it to be whatever it is you want. And once you're happy with your densities, your pull comp, your underlays, all that stuff here, you can overwrite your defaults. That's this one right here, save current settings to default. And you can say save defaults permanently or just for this current document. So if you want it to be permanent, save it permanently. And now every time you go to create a new element, it's going to use those same properties. Okay, so that is another thing. We did have a question. Is there a tutorial on digitizing PNG images or SVG files? Yes. Why I'm kind of phrasing that as a question is because SVG and PNG, it's, that's how do you digitize. So there are, basically you've worked through it the same way you would digitize anything, right? So there are on the Melco University under Digitizing, so you can walk through all the steps there on determining pathing, how to, create the different elements, build up through the art, think about stitch directions, all that sort of thing. You can, of course, do auto converts, and there are, the auto convert is available for you, so you can always do that. Let's see, Adina, if you have more details on what you're looking for tutorial, I can point you, because we do have a bunch of digitizing videos created. Which version of DesignShop do you need to save the properties? I think it's in all of them. DesignShop Standard up. I don't know if it's in lettering. I know it was in the previous version from this, as well as the new version. Let's see, Mark T. I have lettering that's digitized and I want a border around each letter. Is there a way to do this? Yeah. So if you select your letter, I assume what you have is wireframe, not an actual lettering. So I just converted this. Okay. So I'm trying to think of are you asking, is there a way to do just like an actual satin border around this? Or, well, here, let me just show you what I was going to show you. So I can select my thing. I can say generate primer stitch. Come to primer. Let's say I want to make it small. Okay. So what did that do? That created a fill. Is a fill what you want? Depending on the size of the element, it would work. Obviously, I wouldn't want it to look like a crosshatch if I want it to be a border. So in that case, I'd want to come over, delete one of these, make it something else. We can also do a, no, not break object. I'm sorry, offset outline. And let's say we want it to be more offset. So now when I turn all that on, there's my original letter. So now it will sew beforehand. Well, what if you want it to be a satin stitch around the outside? Well, I can select my fill, use my control, hold the control key on the keyboard, and then click on that single line, and now I have a satin stitch. So with that satin stitch, I can then go into the properties of it, make it wider, narrower. I can make it justify left, right, however it is, whatever look you're going for. Okay. So you can adjust its properties accordingly. So that would probably be the easiest, I would think, would be use primer. Now you can, of course, select your shape and take this, hold your shift key, click on your single line center, and that adds a border. So that's also another way to do it. Select your shape, shift, click on single line center, and now I've got, again, a border. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it, however it is you want. So hopefully that helps you. All right. What else do we have? On another note, is there a great deal of difference between random or pattern fill stitch, or is it just a preference of how it looks when it sews out? The more patterns you apply, usually the more needle penetrations you have, which means your stitch count is going to go up. That's not always true though. So I find it really, for me anyway, it's a personal preference. Some things I think look really cool, but other people are like, why'd you do that? It's just, we each have our own little styles. We each find things that look pretty or look nice to us, which, you go, oh, well, that's nice, but this is better. Well, that's a matter of opinion, right? We each find things that are different, which kind of makes, us all unique. Let's see. What else do we have? Can you explain again how to make your own stippling? So true stippling, it's not really a thing to make your own, but you can do, things that are like stippling. So in different patterns. So instead of the true little stippling where you're just running around, for that you would just use the stipple feature. But let's say you want to create your own little pattern of, you know, trees, or like I have my silly horse that I keep on pulling up. So your decorative stitches, where's my horsey? Probably under H. Oh, there he is. So what you would do is draw whatever shape you want to be your pattern, right? So I did this just as a walk normal, where you make sure your start and stop end on the same point. So let's just say that's what I want. Okay, that's cute, except I need to make sure my start and stop are on the same line. That's best accomplished by turning on a grid or a vector line or something. Okay, once you've got those on the same line, then you can select it, go save custom shape, and I like saving this as test until I'm happy with it. And you'll see it says it already exists. You want to replace it? Yes, I do, because I keep on overwriting the same thing, and that way I don't create a whole bunch of random ones that I don't like. So then from there, I can go down and select my test. Where is it? There it is. And see, you know, is that the look I want? Okay, we'll pretend that is for grins. So if you want to create a kind of like a stipple fill of that shape, you know, you draw whatever fill shape you want, change the type to decorative, and then I can change this to be that test thing. Okay, and create your own patterns. So like my horse, I can come over and say, all right, make that the horse pattern. Okay, and that will give you your own kind of custom patterns, which gives you, you know, that look, that quilted look, which is what stippling kind of does for you. Okay, can you show us where to find the stitch directions or where to add multiple stitch directions? Yeah, so just create a new file. All right, I'm going to go again, draw a box, because it's quick and easy. So this dotted line you see right there is the stitch direction. So how can you modify it? There's a few ways. You can, of course, double click on the shape. You can right click on it, go to properties, and then right here is stitch angle. So if you want to do it by number, that's cool. You can always do it, and see the dotted line will change as you move it around. Okay, so that's one way that changes it. Also, if you're more visual, you're not really a numbers type person, you want to just drag it around until you like it, that's cool too. So select your shape. Once it's selected, this group of 4 right here are your editing commands of sorts, right? So this first one is insert stitch direction, or first one, the bottom right. So if I click on that, notice now my dotted line is now a solid line with black handles on the end. So I can drag that handle around, and that is visually, that's changing my stitch directions. Okay, so you're moving that around, and that will allow you to change your stitch directions. Okay, so if you're visual, if you want to add additional stitch directions, you can always left click and drag and add additional ones, and those sorts of things. Okay, what else do we have? I have DesignShop Vector. I have the capability to change the order. Do I have the capability to change the order of the colors and stitches? Absolutely. Okay. Oh, that's fun. What did I do? Apparently I broke it. Awesome. Oh my goodness. That was entertaining. All right. No. All right, so do you have the ability to change colors? Yeah, so let's go open a file. I'm going to go to, and then I'll go, where's my C drive? C drive, you guys have all these. I'm going to go open that One Day Design. All right, so if I want to change the order that things are sewn, I would just over here in my project view, select whatever it is and drag it around. So let's say, well here, let's change some colors first. So let's say we want each pair to be a different color. Okay, so I can select the elements that I want to change colors of. To select multiples, I hold the Control key or the Shift key, however you want to look at it. Shift hold, go from select everything between. Control will do individual selection. So Control can select those two and then click on any color over here. Okay, so let's make that one blue and we'll leave that one alone. Okay, so now I have, no, let's give it another color. All right, so now all my pairs are a different color. Okay, well, what if for some reason I wanted to make this pair so after pair number 4? Okay, I can take this guy here, this color, which, so these are my color changes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can select on color 1, left click and drag, and you see that black line that's appearing on my screen? That's where it's going to put it. So that allows me to drag it around. So yes, I'm using professional, but this is available in anything. You can go move your things around as much as possible, as much as you want. Now, back to that stitch direction question. If you want to add multiple stitch directions, you would, left click and drag and add the stitch directions that you want. And you can move them around. You can add multiples. You can, if you want to add curved stitch directions, if you left click and hold, there's your curved stitch direction list. So maybe I want to, might end up crashing or making it look ugly, but I can add curved stitch directions. You can do all kinds of things with the stitch directions on there. Now, the more you add, particularly if you're telling the software to do silly things like, hey, I want all my stitches running horizontal, but I also want them running vertical, and it's all in with one element, it's not going to know what to do with that. So you're going to get some weird things that you got to watch out for. Okay, so make sure you're not telling it to do things that aren't feasible. Okay, so we did this guy. Oh, this one. How do we create this sort of look? This one I did actually hit save beforehand. So let's go get that file. All right, so, gotta go find it. Chain stitch. Okay, so let's start off with what I did. All right, so first step to any digitizing is go and get your art, right? There is no auto chain stitch. Now you can do things like this, I'll show you. I'm going to copy and paste this, move it over here. So I have this vector. I can apply a stitch direction. So left click and drag. Now I have a fill stitch. Okay, that's not a chain stitch, but it's a fill, right? If I want that to look like a chain stitch, I can of course come over here, turn this, make it decorative, change this guy to chain, where is it? Chain stitch, hit apply, and get a similar look, but that's not, if I had to guess, that's not what you're looking for. You want it to kind of follow the shape. So if you want quick and easy, that's what I would do, and then you can play with the properties here. So I'd leave this one at 100 and maybe make that a little narrower. Okay, so that'll give you something similar, but it's not that kind of concentric circle type look. So to get that concentric type look where it's just going in or out, however you want to think about it, is you've got to manually punch that. So to do that, I did this just because I can never eyeball myself perfect spacing and it makes me crazy. So because of that, what I did is I had my letter, I just copied and pasted it. And then on the pasted shape, I'll do it on this one just so you can see. So I copy paste, I gave it a new color just so I could see it. I did object offset outline and let's say -30. Say okay. So now I've got lines that I can trace that are concentric. So then I can take this one, copy and paste, object offset -30. Okay. And give it another color. Why? That's just so I have something to trace. Do you have to do that? No. If you're good at eyeballing, go for it. I just am not. So now what do we do? All right, well, decide which direction your chain stitch wants to go, change it to decorative, make this be chain, and trace it. So I'm going to hold my alternate key on the keyboard to keep my lines vertical and horizontal. When I go down here, I can't do that because it's not at a perfect angle. at 15, you know, in increments of 15 there. So I'm holding alternate on my horizontal and verticals. Oops, hit backspace when you click wrong. Sorry, Jamie. A lot of fun stuff today. All right, so here I'm going to just kind of project down from this while holding alternate, go back up, and work my way around. This area I probably would do a little different, but I'm just going to go with it because it's what art I have to trace. Okay, I'm just going to go straight up to... Nope. See, I told you I can't eyeball it. Still didn't do it. I just want it to line up with this line here. Yeah, close enough. There we go. All right, so I'm going to stop here. So if I hit enter, now I can go into the properties again of this guy, and let's make that maybe 75, 50, I don't know, whatever you want. There you go. So you can play with that and, you know, get that concentric look, and you just punch your way around it. It's pretty easy to do. All right, let's see. What else do we have? I answered those. Okay, I have fast clamps. I can't seem to get the right size for my project. My design is 4.5 wide. I'm stitching it on stocking with an opening of 8.75. Each one I've selected doesn't fit or looks like I'll hit the clamp. I think I'm selecting the wrong clamps. There should be a help document out there that shows you exactly which ones tie to which frames, so we'll try to get you that link, because where you can see where you set the window within DesignShop to match what you actually have on the clamp, because the numbers, depending if you have your units different within the software, you've got 15 on the clamp, which is in centimeters, versus inches in the software. That's where a lot of confusion comes in. So I'll see if we can get you that link. All right. What other questions might we have? Anything fun and exciting going on? Let's see. Let me see if I had any others that were sent in beforehand. I think the chain stitch was the last one, yeah. So we had some pretty... Cool. So the link for how to get to the spacing on the clamps is up there for you now. My ruler doesn't line up with 0. That's different. What do you mean your ruler? Your grid? Because the design origin is always 0, 0. Or do you mean this guy right here? The convert to embroidery button is just a straight conversion. So Frank, your question about your ruler not lining up, are you talking about this guy here or your grid? If you can let me know, I can try to get you an answer. Auto convert. That's the art I was going to go grab. Designs, graphics. Where? I don't want to do that one today. Yeah, that one's easy enough. Okay, so it's just a straight auto convert button. So if I take this guy and I select it and say convert, what it's going to do is it's just going to use the RGB colors for the colors, and it's just going to auto convert it with whatever your default settings are over into embroidery. So it's just a straight conversion. Now I'll say when I use this personally, I tend to convert over and then review it and make edits to suit my personal preferences, but that's literally all it does. Is it's going to take your artwork and create the embroidery design for you. Let me see. So let's see, grid. Your 0, 0 red line sits at 45 points. I don't think I've ever seen that. Let's see. If I go into the property, oh, right here. There you go. So let's go do that. What did I just do? On the origin right here, if I right click on it, where do you want the origin to be? Center or your first stitch? So I always leave mine at center. So I would check that setting first. So that's just by right clicking on the grid or your the origin crosshairs, and make sure you have that set to center. Okay. What other questions do we have? I don't see any coming in yet. So that's all fine. Red line sits at 45. Then honestly, I don't know. So if you can, what I would suggest is to call tech support and let them log in and look at it. Yeah, because that's the only thing I would know, and I know mine's right at 00. So if you're looking at on your machine itself, the laser, particularly for hats, is off-centered. So you have to sight based on the needle, not on the laser. So because hats sit up higher, the laser dot comes in from an angle, which is going to make it off-centered. So if that's what's causing problems, then that's known. You sight based on the needle, not based on the laser itself. How do you slant lettering? So if you take your lettering and I double click on it, right here you have slants. You can give it whatever degree you want, both positive and negative, to make it italicized. So you can do positive numbers or negative numbers, and that will slant your lettering, right? So if you do them as an OFA, it will work the same way. So if you're digitizing your own fonts using the alphabet editor, it's the same thing. Now if you are, so let me get rid of all this. Let's pretend I'm just going to convert to wireframe. So now I have this thing. Let's say you digitized it all, manually punched it. Well, what you can do in that case is up here, if you go to Object, Transform Outline, you'll see I've got a line up here and a line down here. Undo that. Let me select my points. I'm going to hold the Control key. So I select them all, then I'm going to left click and drag, and that will italicize them. Okay, so what did I do again? Undo. I selected whatever it is I want to italicize. I went to Object, Transform Outline. I left click on one end of that, left click on the other. Now I'm going to left click and drag, and that's while I hold it. To select the both, I use the Control key, left click and drag. If I hold alternate, that will keep it on the same line, so I'm not changing the height. Drag it. There you go. Now you have a manually punched thing turned to italicized. Now that's also fun just for grins, just because I like that feature. You can also add points on it and do silly things. Not that you want to do this, but you can create your own little shapes by adjusting them. So just for grins, that's some more stuff to play with. Okay. What else would we like to go over today? Anything fun? I don't see any others typed in. And Frank, I'll ask when I give a call to the guys again, I'll see if there's anything else that I'm not aware of on why your thing would be off. Okay, I think that was all the questions we had. So I'll be back next week next week is going to be Thursday. So I'll be back next Thursday to do this again. Ooh, we have a new Facebook comment. What is it? Is there a simple way to smooth outlines of digitized objects? What do you mean by that? Like you have too many points and you want them to be curved? So let's say you want that to be a nice curve rather than a icky curve. Well, You can convert them by holding the shift key and click. Shift, click, shift, click. That will smooth them out. Okay, another would be to delete excess points. So if you've got a bunch of additional points on the wireframe, deleting those is helpful. And I tend to use the custom point selection tool, which is this guy right here, so that I can draw a great big circle around all the points I want to mess up or I want to delete, and hit delete. Okay. So is that what you're asking, Adina? Hopefully it is. How do you line up multiple hoopings? You have the laser alignment on your software. So if you go to, let's see, there are several videos that we've done on lining up big projects. One was done about 2 years, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. It was around Christmas time. It was ribbon with a holly on it. And that showed how to set up the design as well as how to keep on hooping it so that you can just do a continuous thing of ribbon with holly on it. There's just another video that has Sue, that I think Sue and Nate did, that's got a pumpkin in the middle and some branches on the side. But it's all going to be centered around lining up, setting up your design right, creating registration points, and then using the features of laser alignment, which are built into the software. And that is, oh, there it is. So the commands in the manual itself, there's a video. So if you go to the manual and look up laser alignment, there's a video there within the manual that shows how laser alignment works. But you'll see there's different ways. You can justify to the left, justify to the right. Depending on what you're trying to achieve, you know, one will be preferable over the other. So it really is going to depend on your design. Continuous things where you're going across, justifying it to one end so that you can make sure the needle penetrations exactly line up is a good idea. And that was done in the ribbon video. So I would look at that one. Where are the videos? On YouTube. So I'll see if we can get you a link to them. But like I said, there's one that was around Christmas time. It was a whole video on laser alignment, their sample designs, but it was, like I said, holly. And then there's also one around Halloween time that same year, which goes over a pumpkin and some big branches. It's like a big banner. It's pretty cool. All right, another question, one more question. What's a good setting when cutting 3D puff, edge run, stitch length? When cutting the 3D puff? I mean, the cuts are going to be your satin stitches. So here, let me show you guys. I think I've done this before, but I'll do it again. Let's see. Oh no, my questions went away. Where are they? Yikes. Ugh. All right. melcoservice.com. If you click on, so if you go to melco-service.com, click on this, and then look up puff. 3D puff. So here are more settings than you could ever want, how to set up their machine. But here, this document right here has a lot of really good information on puff. There are sample designs here that you can run and test. But if you go look at this document, within here, they've got, you know, how to do it, what settings you would want, how you would set your puff, you know, what densities work best. All those good tips and tricks are in here. Okay, and I lost my questions, so give me a sec. There they are. All right, cool. I found them. All right, what else? Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, if that's all, like I said, I will be back next week on Thursday to, you know, whatever questions you might have. So make sure you can email them to applications@melco.com. Typically I'll kind of post on Facebook the day before asking for questions. So if you see those, it's got this little cover sheet for my presentation as the main picture, this guy here with, hey, what questions do you have? So you can type in on those and we'll see if we can help you out some. I hope these are helpful for you. Let us know what you'd like to learn and we'll try to get something creative for you. All right. You guys have a fantastic weekend, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye, guys.